Welcome to the Swinging Lights. Today's guest is Joe Maddock. I met Joe years ago when the Swinging Lights, back when we were just a three-piece, opened up for the Watches. And the Watches were a Salt Lake City band. We opened up for them at the Urban Lounge, and they didn't have a bass player, and so I ended up playing bass with them for a number of years, and that's where I met Joe, and who was the guest today, and that's where I met Max, who was the guest from the last episode, and also that's where I met Wayne, who's our current drummer for the Swinging Lights. He was the drummer in the Watches during that time. Joe Maddock has since moved to Portland. He's probably one of the best damn guitar players I've ever played with, and just a dear friend, super nice guy. He's currently works at the Big Legrowlski in Portland. If you're ever in the area, swing by and say hi. He organizes their open mic night on, I believe he said Monday nights, and he also plays there and used to play there on a regular basis just by himself with a looping pedal and his guitar. Really cool stuff. He also plays in a band called Comrade Fran, and you can follow him and his band on Instagram at Comrade Franzia, and they also have a Facebook page. Phenomenal musicians, great music. I think you'd really enjoy it. At the end of the episode, we tried to have Joe play us something live with his looping pedal, and doing it over Skype, it just sounded like shit. So Joe went back and recorded something on a different day by himself and emailed it to me. So that's what happened at the end. We cut the performance just because it sounds so shitty over Skype and plugged in a better quality one at the very end. So just to give you a heads up on that. So anyhow, I think you're in for a real treat. Without any further ado, let's get into it.
Microphone you got there.
Well, thank you. That's a fancy smile you have. I miss your smile. It's intoxicating.
Oh, Justin, you charm me.
I think old Joe Smith rocked a smile like that.
You guys talk about Joe Smith on the podcast?
Chris and I think in the past we've talked a little bit about religion, kind of more the nuances that fucked us up for life type of topics, but
yeah, still working through some of those myself.
Yeah, it gets better with time, man. I think
so too. I think you start to see kind of like the broader perspective, the big world that you were missing out on when you were in this little thing. And I think the more of a broad perspective you have, the more compassion you have for those who are still kind of caught up in it too, and they're just doing their thing.
I know, it's so hard. There's this really sweet woman that I work with, and she's from, oh God, now I can't even remember where she's from. She speaks a Spanish language. She's a total sweetheart, man. But she's still Mormon. And every once in a while, I'm like, you got to get out of there, man. Get yourself a 10% raise.
Among other things.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot more fun out here, that's for sure. But to everything there is a season.
Yes, this is true.
Turn, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So how you liking it up there?
Dude, it's been an adventure to say the least. It's been a lot of fun.
So you're living right in Portland?
Yeah, we're pretty much right in the center of town here. So we've been kind of busy around the house. This room that I'm talking to you in, we just moved into. One of our roommates just moved out. Blah blah blah. Because I mean that's part of the reality of living like right in Portland is for a nice house you're gonna have some roommates, and we got a pretty sweet little spot here.
Because it's not cheap.
Because it's not cheap. Yeah, it's not getting any cheaper, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's still got a lot of the stuff that has drawn people here. I mean, I've always loved Portland. It's really beautiful. This is the rare time of year when it's hot in Portland. Quite hot and muggy these days.
Little bit humid.
Oh yeah,
with the heat.
Yeah, the sun has come out to play. But it's funny with the humidity that like it gets super hot in the middle of the day and then like always cools off at night. Like we do get hot summer nights from time to time, but it's Yeah. Well, you've hung out up here.
Oh yeah, I've been to the Northwest a bunch of times,
Yeah.
man. It's a blast. I really enjoy the Northwest, man.
Yeah. It's a special place.
For sure. I think one of my favorite places is like Stevenson and like well that's Washington, it's right across the gorge there, but Hood River. Fucking Hood
Dude.
River, Oregon is so badass.
Yeah. We just went there for the first time not too long ago and basically ate our way through the place.
What
Because like we were gonna go on a hike, but the weather was shitty. This is back in like February or March.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we just ended up like eating everything that we could. I had like the best tacos I've ever had in my life in Hood River.
Dude, and there's like a brewery on every goddamn corner. Have you
Yeah,
noticed that too?
yeah, there's Freem, which I've never had a beer from them I haven't liked. And then there's Double Mountain, which has like killer pizza.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm blown away. Every time I go up there, I'm just like there's so much stuff and there's so much things in nature to do in that whole Northwest area, like Oregon, Northern California, even Washington. Do you guys ever make it over to Washington at all?
From time to time, yeah. We try to like visit Seattle as often as we can because we got, our buddy Ben up there.
Uh-huh.
There's just lots of fun stuff to do.
He's such a badass. I love the hell out of that kid.
You've been interviewing the whole crew. Yeah, I saw you had Max on recently. I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but
Yeah, it was kind of got a little bit silly here and there.
yeah.
We always talk about weird shit. That's why I like him. We talked a bit about the watches, man. We had a few regrets that we didn't release a real studio album.
Yeah, no. That's always the struggle. I still struggle with that. I mean, that's I've kind of been okay, so I just got a 4-track yesterday.
Cool. Like an old school analog one?
Yeah, dude, like a Tascam Porta Studio, like the real deal.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to? Is this like a video podcast? Are people gonna like see things?
Yeah, I can see you right now.
Right. Well, I guess that's true, but other people can see it. All right.
Not right now.
Oh, not right now.
I'm gonna upload it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the Tascam Porta Studio right there.
Look at that. That's cool, man.
Pretty excited about it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, something I've been thinking about with recording, and I do regret that we never got like a proper recording out there. But it's like I think that the part of the charm of recorded music for me is listening to it and like knowing the story of where it came from. Like.
Mm-hmm.
It goes both ways. Like when I listen to some like cheesy hit single from the 80s, like I love it.
Right.
But I love it because it just cracks me up so much to imagine them just like coked out of their minds. Just like, yeah, man, sing it again. Just, that was awesome. Okay, another saxophone solo, like this, like just imagining when you listen to something like what went into making it is a big thing for me. So like I don't know, that's where it's always hard for me to be like, okay, so do I want to drop a bunch of coin and go to some fancy studio and try to make everything sound like pristine? Because that's everybody's doing that. Like I kind of like the live thing. I don't know. But you know me, I'm pretty mercurial with all of that stuff.
I think that a really good sound engineer, and that's what the one thing that we love about Herc so much is
Herc's amazing.
Yeah, we just went in and like recorded live, and then he just basically mixes it in a way that like cuts out all the noise, like the stuff that's kind of shitty. I don't know how he does it, man, but his mix and mastering is good, but it still like has that live presence to it. Like you can still hear that these people are like playing together live.
Yeah.
Because I prefer the raw sound.
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of compression, freaking autocorrect. I don't like any of that shit, man. You listen like the old Stones records, Zeppelin. It's just raw as fuck, right?
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Weren't most of them doing them on 8 tracks and shit back then?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many tracks they had when they did like, Sticky Fingers, but that's why like all the old Beatles recordings, everything's like hard panned.
Uh-huh.
Like the drums are all the way to the right and like the vocals are all the way to the left and crazy shit. It's because like they had to do that because of the limitations of the tape they were recording to and stuff.
Right,
But
right.
like the 4-track's going to be kind of like that too. Like if I want to overdub more than 4 things, I've got to like pan one track to the right and then tell the other track to record everything from the right channel, and then that frees up the first track. So it's like there's a certain amount of like, I mean, obviously it's going to sound like pretty like, you know, gritty and weird,
Yeah.
but that's part of the fun. I don't know. I'm looking forward to experimenting with that. But yeah, the live recording thing, that's another thing I've like always wanted to do.
Well, I think that's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Like other albums that I've done in the past with other bands, and even, you know, before the Swinging Lights ever recorded, all the times we recorded before, it was like do a dummy scratch track guitar so we can catch the drums.
Uh-huh.
And then the bass would have to go play along with the drum recording, and then the guitar plays along with that, and then you add vocals afterwards. But it is missing that live sound because you don't have the dynamics in the moment of jamming together, if that makes sense. You're trying to match the dynamics of something in your headphones, but the person isn't in front of you playing.
Totally. Yeah.
And
I mean, that gets to that thing of like, you can tell the story of how it was made just by listening to it. Like there's some albums, like I think Neil Young said that like his first solo album, he felt like it was more, I can't remember how he put it, but that he didn't feel like he actually performed that album like that because it was all overdubbed.
Right.
And I think after that they went for more of a live approach with his solo albums. I mean, it sounds like it. You can hear that that's like a band playing together. Because yeah, there's certain shit that you just won't do if you're not sitting in the room with another person. Like you just won't do it.
Dude, that album, Tonight's the Night, you can tell they're just all fucked up, man.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's what that album's about.
And that album's amazing. It's like my favorite one.
Yeah. Is that your favorite Neil Young?
I love that album, man. Rust Never Fades, I really like too.
Yeah, that one's. See, the thing about Neil Young is like every single album has some kind of like nostalgic connect. Like I can't think about that album without like this flood of memories.
Right.
Like Rust Never Sleeps makes me think of, there was this couple, this was right after we just moved, Shelby and I moved here to Portland. Shelby's my wife.
Yeah, dude, super stoked for you, man. Looks like you found the right match.
Oh yeah, she's great. She's been getting into her painting is right here too. I don't know.
Dude, she's way good. Show that painting.
Yeah, can you see it?
Oh my God. Hold on. I gotta stop talking because it keeps switching. Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's got like 3D flowers like popping out of it and stuff.
I love that painting she did of you too.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's from a while back. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that's really cool. Anyway, back to Neil. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you.
Oh yeah, well, you're just thinking about Rust Never Sleeps when we very first moved here, and this I guess is a pretty good like dovetail into the stories of our adventures thus far, because like we this couple came up to couch surf with us at our first apartment here, and they were from Australia, and they had just had this dream of like buying a shitty like minivan and touring the United States and just like doing their thing, you know? And it was so inspiring. And this minivan that they got had just like a little cassette deck in it. And they just got like cassettes at thrift stores and stuff. And they had a cassette of Rust Never Sleeps.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's badass.
So I just like, every time I think of that album, I just think of like, we went out to the river together, just like cruising out through like the hills and listening to those songs and just being like, modern suburban life is a prison. I just want to like travel and, you know, and
it is a goddamn prison, man.
I know.
But it's more complicated than that. It's like you're so terrified that like you may have some ailment that hits you and you don't have insurance.
Yeah.
So how do you have insurance? Well, you have a fucking job that you have to stay with. And if the insurance is really good, then it's even more scary to leave that job, right?
Totally.
And then if you try to buy insurance out of your pocket, man, how are you going to live on the road doing that?
I know. Yeah, it's well, and that's the thing too. I was talking to a couple from England the other day because I bartend a little bit here and there, and there was a couple that I see a lot of tourists visiting Portland and stuff, and they were just like, amazed that or like, I don't know, almost disgusted that we don't have public health care. We're just like, how we don't have to worry about that. So we can just work for whatever it takes to get by. You know, we don't have to like get some, like they actually make less on average from what they were telling me. That
Well,
like,
you pay a higher tax for sure. None of that shit's free. You pay a higher tax, but
yeah.
there's a ton of freedom in it because you're not married to one profession your whole life, man. Like I like working for the VA. I don't have a problem with it, but sometimes I'm like, I want to go try something else. I don't want to do nursing for the rest of my life. I want to go try something else.
Yeah, totally.
But I can't because I got insurance and all these benefits through the VA, which are some of the best benefits you could ever have as far as working, you know, because you're working for the federal government. But I'm stuck there, man.
I hate
But people in other countries that have that public health care, a lot of them, they'll switch careers, I think on average 3 to 4 times, you know?
Yeah, I've never heard a statistic, but that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it would be very liberating.
I think I heard that on Jordan B. Peterson talking once because he always goes off on how it does work in some places, you know what I mean? So anyway.
But I mean, you're living pretty well. I mean, you know, we're doing the best. We're doing the best we can.
Oh no, like I don't have any, you know, I have a great life. I'm just saying, like, it would be cool to just be like, you know what, man, I'm gonna take off and go do some touring with the band and just make enough money to get by for a little while and not like be afraid that I just completely fucked up. Because like I can't just take off now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got a family, I got a kid, so it's like I can't just bail out on all that shit, you know?
Totally.
But yeah, I don't. As far as, I mean, we're the 1%, man, in the world.
Yeah.
Living the way we live. Like I'm not bitching about it, but it would be cool if you didn't have to be married to a job in order to know that you're always going to have access to healthcare. That would be ideal.
Yeah, totally.
Be cool.
Dude, but yeah, that couple from Australia kind of inspired us. So we sort of like tried to follow their lead as much as we could, I'd say, like over the past year. We got like this shitty little station wagon and kind of like toured California with it last summer.
And got a station wagon?
Yeah, dude.
Does it have like wood panels and shit?
No,
tell me it's got wood panels.
It looks like it should have wood panels. It is like, it's from the 90s, but it looks like it should be from like the 70s. And
so it's got that old school like beach cruiser look to it.
It looks almost exactly like the station wagon from the Wonder Years, is what I'm telling you right now.
Fuck yeah.
And I'm not lying. It's one of those like Buick Century things from like the 90s. I think it's like a 96.
Does it have the steering column shifter where you pull it back and shift into drive?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And the tape deck still works. Dude, everything on that, I mean, the air conditioning doesn't actually work, but you know, you can get like the vent thing and you're fine.
Right.
But, like pretty much everything on that is the most trusty. Just I've never had any trouble with that car. And you know I've had car trouble in the past, but that thing is just a trusty friend. We took it all the way down to LA and back last summer. And funny enough, listened to a lot of Neil Young.
No shit.
Yeah, I feel like Neil Young was the soundtrack to my summer last year.
That's awesome, man. You know what you should do just to be safe? I think you can buy these little tapes that will clean the heads. Like, you know what you get for the VCR?
Totally. I forgot that those existed until recently. I was actually reading up on what to do with that 4-track, and I was like, oh yeah, those little cleaner things.
Yeah, you might just want to clean it just to preserve it, right? So the tape deck continues to work for a long time. Yeah, there's something to be said about them old cars, man. They used to make them to last.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but when it comes time to work on it, you'll just have to figure it out because it's older. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
So, so what made you? I know you always liked Portland, but what made you finally decide to make the jump to go move up there?
At the time, I was working for the Apple Store, and so I had been kind of just like keeping an eye on open positions up here.
Oh, back up for a sec. So you moved from Salt Lake. You didn't grow up in Salt Lake though, right? No,
I grew up in. Okay, so yeah, I'll back up all the way to.
Sorry, didn't mean jump the gun, but if people are listening, like, oh, good, you're in Portland.
Oh yeah, like, hey, wait, right, like, who is this guy? Hi, my name is Joe Maddock. and I am kind of obsessed with music, and I'm Justin's good friend, and we used to play in a band together called the Watches.
There it is.
And I was born in Portland, Oregon, to LDS parents of a slightly hippie LDS persuasion. That is to say, my grandma is kind of like a hippie Mormon, and she lives here in Portland still. Hippie Mormon, like, I don't know, she just kind of didn't fit the mold growing up. She protested Vietnam. I've always been really, really, actually, that's a big part of the reason why I decided to move to Portland is
I
because,
didn't realize that you were born in Portland. I just
yeah, I
thought you
was,
were born in some podunk town in southern Utah or something.
well, my ancestors are from southern Utah, but my grandma's family moved from southern Utah to Portland in like the 40s. And so, yeah, my parents are from Oregon, or they were high school sweethearts here in Portland, which is kind of cute. So sometimes I get to drive by
Oh,
the McDonald's where they met and like,
oh.
first sight stuff. And it's just like kind of a hopeless romantic. I think for that reason, because like they fell in love at first sight working at McDonald's. So anyway, yeah, I was born in Portland, and my grandma still lives here. And then my parents moved to California when I was a kid. So I grew up in the Sacramento area.
Okay.
And growing up in Sacramento, I became very fascinated with music. I mean, it was like the 90s, and I wasn't much for sports. I was just kind of like not your typical like dude. I didn't like, playing football with the boys. I kind of just watched a lot of MTV and read Lord of the Rings. And
You read Lord of the Rings back then?
yeah, when I was a little kid, I got into Lord of the Rings, and I started like writing little stories about elves and stuff. And 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 I started watching MTV, and I saw like Kurt Cobain and like Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day up there with their like guitars doing their thing. And I was just
I
like,
remember getting the Dookie album, man. I was
me too.
stoked
That
on
was like
that.
my first cassette tape, actually.
Yeah, it was great. It's a good one.
And yeah, I just like became so enthralled with the idea of like just playing guitar that it was all I could think about. I would play street hockey sometimes. I kind of liked hockey, and I had like a hockey stick, and I would just air guitar along with like the alternative radio station with my little hockey stick.
How old are you at this point?
Like 9 or 10.
Oh, it's crazy,
Yeah, I
man.
was a little kid, and I just got into music really early. And so then my grandma, the Portland grandma, agreed to buy me a guitar if I would mow the lawn for like a year. So that was how I got my first guitar.
So you mowed her lawn for a year?
No, I mowed my parents' lawn, but they like worked out a contract that I had to sign, and I had to like sign every time I mowed the lawn. And then if I did it like, then I got a guitar for Christmas. Because they were afraid that me getting a guitar was going to lead to me getting into all kinds of trouble, which, in a way they were right.
Good trouble though. It's good
Yeah,
trouble.
I mean,
It's all fun trouble, man.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take any of it back at all. I think that music really opened my mind. I mean, not to be like cliche about it or anything like hippy dippy, but
But
yeah,
you treated your guitar when you got that guitar like most kids do with video games, right? Like you just kind of
that was the other thing. I didn't really get that into video. Well, I played Zelda. Yeah, it was pretty much just me and that guitar, man. That's just what I wanted to do
you
all the time.
played Zelda
I did like Zelda.
on the NES, the
The
original
SNES,
one.
I like that one.
Oh, okay. I played Zelda. I didn't understand what the fuck was going on.
Me
I go
neither.
up to people, they're sitting there
I know.
telling me what to do, and I couldn't figure it out, man.
Yeah, totally. It is kind of like a puzzle. But I had like these buddies who were video game nerds, and they like explained the whole thing to me. And then I look up those like walkthroughs, and it was kind of fun. But yeah, I never really was like a gamer either. It was like just all music all the time from the get go. Um, but yeah, what else? Okay, so grew up in Sacramento, and then like as a teenager, got kind of involved in like the local scene there. Like I, and this is also kind of like the leaving the church story. Like I um, joined my first band through this like music store in Sacramento, and the two of the kids that were in the band were ex-Mormon,
Okay.
drummer and the bass player, and they were really good, and they were like into like cool music that I liked at the time. I mean, it was the '90s. I don't know. I thought they were cool because they like Primus and Nirvana and stuff.
I still think I've seen Primus more than any other band.
Yeah, I mean, really more than any other band.
I think so, man. I saw Primus not like as a in my 20s or anything, but during high school, they always came to Utah, and I saw him a bunch of times because Les Claypool likes coming to Utah because he's a fisherman.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I saw him at Salt Air like 3 times. Saw him up at like Wolf Mountain when they used to do their outdoor concert series and stuff.
He's got a couple songs about fishing too.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
When I grow up, I want to be.
oh yeah,
Yeah, dude.
yeah, man.
He's a nut.
You know, but Primus sucks, as they say.
They do suck.
They suck. I saw them once. I saw them in Salt Lake once, and it was pretty impressive.
He's such a weird son of a bitch, man. He's so odd, but he's fucking amazing at playing bass.
No, he's gnarly. Did he do? I mean, I'm sure you've seen him do the thing where he puts on like the beak, like a bird, and then he grabs like this crazy like 1-string upright bass and just like makes all these weird sounds.
I haven't got to see that.
I thought he did that every show. Well, he did that at the show I saw. I guess it was like that was like the highlight. It was.
He brought out his upright with a bow. I think what is that, Mr. Kringle? Something like that.
That is enough. Yeah.
He did do that. Yeah, that's cool stuff, man. There was a lot of weird shit going on in the 90s.
Yeah.
But like good weird.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, I still listen. 90s are great. But yeah, because those kids were ex-Mormon, it kind of like planted the seed in my head. Like, oh, you can not be Mormon. Then I started kind of like
none of this would have happened if we would have not got Joe that guitar.
Yeah, basically. It's true. But I mean, I don't know. It probably would have happened one way or another. I mean,
oh yeah, no, you were gonna get into music. It had to happen.
But so yeah, that was kind of a formative thing. But then yeah, as a teenager, you know, got involved with like the local scene there and just like going to shows a lot and stuff. Like that was fun. Like that was an exciting thing to catch when I caught it, and I like am wistful for those days. And like when you found out about a local band because like your friend gave you their tape, you know, and there was like not maybe they had like a little website, but it wasn't, you know, music hadn't become so overtaken with like the online thing yet, and it was a little more of like a word of mouth thing, and it felt a little more like when you were at a show, it wasn't like everyone was on their phones, you know, because smartphones didn't exist yet. You were just like you were there, and like that music was like, I mean, I still just like get the chills when I think about some of those shows I saw back then. They really like inspired me. Oh
yeah, I mean, you're with your friends, you're at these shows that your friends turned you on to, or you turned them on to. I agree, man. This topic comes up a lot in this podcast, but just kind of how awesome technology is, but it's also kind of crippled some shit.
Yeah.
You know, when I go to live shows, I don't sit and try to capture everything on a video. I just want to watch it, but I will take like a picture so I have a picture, you know, like one day I'll show my kid, look, I was here, man. I was here at Dr. Dog back in the day at Wilco. I was, you know, but I just like experiencing things like in the moment. I get all smiles.
Yeah, totally.
Do you ever catch yourself just at a show, just like, and then afterwards you're like, oh.
I'm sure that's happened to me. My neck.
That happened at White Denim, man. When we saw White Denim at the Urban Lounge. I
remember that. Are you talking about were we there together? Was this like back in the day? Yeah, dude. That drummer blew my mind.
They all did. That was that was like the hardest part, is like, who do I look at?
Yeah.
It's like you didn't want to miss anything, but you couldn't focus on each person at the same time. It was just you had to just focus on one person at a time because they're all just like wizards.
Yeah, they were really cool. They're still at it, but yeah, they're such a cool band in terms of like every single member is this really good musician, but they've also got like a pretty cool sense of style, especially on like, I mean, I do really, they had that one Last Day of Summer. Did you listen to that one? That album? I still go back to that one a lot. I was just listening to that the other day. It's like a little bit more chilled out than some of their stuff, and kind of like jazzy, but like, yeah, it's just, I think it's also one of the last things that they self-produced.
Okay. Yeah, they had a lineup switch. Their guitar player and their drummer went to play with Leon Bridges, so they have a different guitar player and drummer now. I don't know if you knew that.
I guess I didn't. They have a new, from the guy that they had when we saw him. It's not the same
Mm-hmm.
guitar player. You know what? Okay, so wait a minute. I did see them on a more recent tour here in Portland, and I think that they must have had a different lineup on that one then. I
Yep.
must have seen since that change happened, but I hadn't really kept track of
I
what.
mean, they're still really damn good. It's just it was different people. I didn't realize they had a lineup change till we saw them at the stateroom, and I was like, "What? What the hell's
Yeah,
going on here?"
it's a different vibe. It's a little more just like happy-go-lucky, like Southern rock kind of stuff. You know, not as like heady as the,
Exactly.
you know.
That's a good way to put it, man. So then what? So you're in high school
What?
now at this point?
Oh, I wanted to like name drop this band from back then. They were called Pocket for Corduroy. I followed them religiously. They like changed my life.
What was it called?
Pocket for Corduroy was the name of the band. They're not playing. They're from like the early 2000s, and they sound like they're from the early 2000s. You know, they've got that kind of like sunny day real estate, like vaguely emo-ish, but like not like they did it really well. They had like a really cool kind of like double guitar textural thing and lots of like weird time signatures and stuff. And
Cool. I wonder if can you listen to any of their stuff, you think, on like Spotify or something?
oh yeah, I think everything that they ever recorded is up on Bandcamp, and I still go
Okay.
back and listen to it sometimes just because it was like such a formative. Like I literally saw that band every single time they played when I was a teenager, and just like kind of took notes. And yeah, they were just so cool. One of the guitar players I think was the son of the guy from Supertramp, which is a funny.
Oh, really?
Um, but yeah, me and my best friend Sean just like worshipped that band in Sacramento, and we kind of toyed around with the idea of like starting a band together. We would like write little songs together and make little recordings sometimes, and but then it came time for me to go on my mission because
Oh yeah, that's right. You didn't drop out when you
I
met
didn't
those
quite.
friends. You stuck on for a bit longer.
Like when I was like 14, 15, I like went punk rock, and I told all my friends that I wasn't into the church anymore. But then like the next day at church, the bishop cornered me and was like, "What do you tell your friends about the church?" And I thought that he had like, you know, used his spirit powers to figure it out. And so I was so spooked by that I like flipped around and kind of went with the whole thing and sort of, and I genuinely, well, I didn't just go with it. I like believed it for a while
Right.
so yeah, I went on a mission, and I was pretty gung ho at that point. I was like, yeah, this is like my path for my life. Like I, you know, totally.
Where did you go again on your Mormon mission?
I went to Guatemala.
At least you went someplace cool.
Yeah, I learned Spanish, which was a cool thing.
Hell yeah. I wanted that so bad, but I got sent to California, English speaking.
California English speaking. Where did you go exactly?
The butthole of California, and I apologize to those who live there.
Yeah, we kind of just like we're so honest in our expression of things sometimes. It's just like, oh wait, that might offend.
I'm not gonna lie, man, but it was San Bernardino County.
Okay.
During that era when I was there 99 to 2001, I believe. But I believe they had the highest murders per capita in the United States.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was nutty, dude. Like the mission covered Fontana, San Bernardino, and then it covered the whole high desert like Victorville, Hesperia. And then, you know, it had a couple of nicer places like Rancho Cucamonga was in it. But yeah, man, it was crazy. It opened up my eyes big time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I had comparable experiences in Guatemala because there was a lot of like there was a lot of gang violence and stuff.
Yeah, there was projects, you know.
Yeah.
In some of the neighborhoods I was in, you know, we're just riding around on our bikes with our magic underpants on, thinking we're totally fine, but we could have been shot anytime.
Did you ever have a gun pulled on you?
Never had a gun pulled on me, no, but we've heard gunshots. We've had the helicopter flying right over our apartment trying to find somebody.
Oh,
Like, yeah, there was like 3 murders one week, just like a block away from our house.
dude.
There were bars on everybody's windows. That should have been like the first sign.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck are there bars on everybody's windows?
Oof. Yeah, it really is something else to just be given a slice of life in a completely different, part of the world. I mean, even if it is in the United States, that shows you the diversity of life experience that exists even just in your own backyard. It's like,
That's an important fucking thing to see as a Mormon, man. Growing
yeah,
up in that ideology your whole life, and you think this is the only way life is supposed to be and every other ways of life is wrong. This is the only path God wants for you, and then you just get to go out and get a bird's eye view of like, holy shit, everybody's living different, man.
yeah, totally. Um, yeah, I saw some scary things in Guatemala because of the gang situation, but
Did you get a
also,
gun pulled on you?
yeah,
You got a gun pulled on you in Salt Lake too, if I remember
I
correctly.
remember that. Yeah, those are just the two times that it has happened.
You can
uh,
only dodge that bullet a few times in your life, man, unless you're a
literally,
cat.
yeah. It makes me think of the whole story that like Wayne Coyne from the Flaming Lips always tells, though, about like how he got held up at the Long John Silver's and then suddenly realized that life is short. And yeah, I think it does. Those types of close calls can really be a blessing in a way. Because you realize this could be over any minute. Like there's a lot of bullshit that I should just not sweat. And just like, yeah.
Hell yeah, absolutely, man. I've had a couple of close calls in my life.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah,
Yeah.
scary.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
so you did your whole mission, right? And then you bailed out pretty soon afterwards, didn't you?
In the
Like
grand
how?
in the grand scheme of things, yeah. So I went to BYU, and that's how I ended up in Utah. So I came back from my mission. At the time, my family was still living in Sacramento, and then I decided to go to college at BYU. So I lived in Provo for like as long as I could stand it. Well, that's so. While I was in Provo, I think a confluence of factors just led to me kind of waking up and really admitting to myself that the whole thing wasn't what I thought it was as far as religion goes, or just having, just being like that traumatic, like, oh, uh-oh, it's really not the,
My parents, my parents lied to me about Santa Claus. They lied to me about this shit.
it's like, oh, wait a minute. So yeah, I was at BYU for like 2 years ish, like 2.5 years.
hmm
And yeah, right. And I switched majors a bunch, but yeah, there came a time where I actually took this really good class on like kind of critical thinking that was based in a lot of like the Greek classics and stuff, and they explain like argumentation based on like the pathos versus the logos versus ethos and all that kind of yada yada. But they would also ask us like what we thought of the current election, because this was like the 2008 election that was coming up.
Who
And
was
so,
running at that time?
well, at the time, Mitt Romney was still a candidate.
Okay.
And so I think one YouTube link led to another off of something I was looking up about Mitt Romney. And I was being encouraged to like come up with my own opinion about things. In a lot of cases, like for the first time, where I just never, I've been, as I think a lot of Americans are, just kind of apolitical. Like I just didn't really have an opinion. I just didn't really want to talk about that sort of big question stuff and like really decide how I felt about it. It was just kind of like, oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
like you just kind of are in this like default mode that you don't realize that you're in. And that class like broke me out of it and got me into more of, I guess, like a philosophical mode of like, what is really, really true, even if it's uncomfortable, like what's the truth? And I found this like YouTube video about like the book of Abraham and that whole thing. And That's
That's some weird shit that most people probably they
I
hear
know.
about the Book of Mormon, but they don't have any idea about like the Book of Abraham and the Pearl of
Yeah,
Great Price and all that shit.
it's a pretty obscure Mormon thing, but
Right.
uh, but watching that video and watching Egyptologists and like academics kind of debunk this belief very effectively, it just kind of like that flipped the light switch for me where I was just like, oh dang, okay, I've got to
Right.
do a total 180 now. And I was going to move back to Sacramento, but that was a little too scary for me at the time. I was already pretty shell shocked. And at that point, my parents were in Utah. And so that would have been pretty scary for everybody, I think, for me to just kind of like bail at that moment. But I couldn't stay in Provo. I mean, that was just like an existential crisis 24 hours a day.
Provo is a weird place, man.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
like the opposite of the butthole of California, but not in a good way.
yeah, it's like this weird, like, here, I'm going to put do not disturb on my thing. Sorry about the little beeps. Um, yeah, it was just, anyway, I couldn't stay in Provo, but I didn't quite have the cajones to go to go back to Sacramento. So I moved to Salt Lake. Well, and I also got a job. I had been working at like this little like Apple store thing, simply, and I got a job at the Apple store in Salt Lake, and found an apartment, like the cheapest, lamest apartment in all of Salt Lake, I'm fairly sure. And
Was that at the Swallow?
no, 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 no. The Swallow. I would never say that about the Swallow, dude. I
The
love.
Swallow was cool as hell, but it was kind of a little bit.
No, I mean, yeah, it was a little bit of a dump, but it was like it was
It was a
awesome.
good dump. It was a good
Yeah.
dump.
No, no, no. It was before I moved in there. It was like dumpier than that, and I had just like struck out on my own, and that was kind of like a soul searching period for me, you know. And that led to making a lot of the friendships that I think brought us together. I made friends with Max, and he became like a brother to me and a mentor and someone who uh, just helped me to come into my own personality in a lot of ways. And we like made music together and really bonded. And we started, and then we met Wayne because he started working at the Apple store too. And it was like, who is this guy? Like he's like a music major and he's got all these cool like exotic instruments in his basement. Like we got to hang out with this guy.
Yeah, he's a pretty interesting dude.
Yeah. So yeah, then we started playing together, and then we played that show, and I believe Swinging Lights were opening for a show that we were playing, and we
Yeah.
kind of started buddying up with you, and we're like, hey, we need a bass player. So one thing led to another there, and then yeah, that I guess that brings us to our shared point of the story.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, that was like a changing point in my life, big time, because I'd just gone through a divorce and lost all my other friends. I lost a lot of friends in the divorce, man.
Oh, dude, that's how those things work.
Yeah, so I lost my house. I'm living in like this basement apartment. And then we played that show and I met you guys and then started hanging out with you. And that's where I met everybody that was on the podcast up to this point that are all my friends that I go backpacking with and everything. I know all of them because I started playing and hanging out with you guys.
That gives me the warm fuzzies.
It's pretty weird, man.
It's special, you know.
Yeah, but that was like, I lost a bunch of friends, but they're the ones that decided whose side they were on, I guess. And but I came out on the other side with a bunch of really solid people in my life, man. And life has got more texture and value to it than it ever has before.
Man, that's some beautiful stuff. I mean, I of course feel the same way. I mean that whole era, yeah, it was a real game changer. And yeah, I guess that's part of the magic of life, right? Is it's like the people that you need have a way of appearing at the right time. You know?
Yep, I agree, man.
Yeah.
100%. So I do have a confession to make, and I feel pretty bad about it in hindsight.
What's that?
So when I quit the watches, right,
Oh,
I
right.
felt really, really bad about all of that stuff. Um,
Okay. I mean,
I wasn't like in the best place in my life. Had a lot of stress going on, super busy, and I was trying to be in two bands at the same time. And like I quit the watches because I kind of was like being a little bit of a loser. I was like kind of upset thinking like you were hard to work with, you know? When in reality, in hindsight, the honesty was is that I had a lot of self-doubt and like lacked the confidence and the skill set, I think. And I like, it was all me, man. I just
oh,
want you to know that.
don't. That's okay.
I know, man, but I was like, this guy is an animal on the guitar. And I couldn't, I just was so intimidated by it that I got like scared, I think. And so I went with, the Swinging Lights, which I love that band a lot. But, with Chris, he would sit down and be patient with me until I could like figure it out. Because
Yeah.
I wasn't on that level, man. And
Yeah.
now I feel bad in hindsight. And I just wanted to make an apology, man. It wasn't you, it was me.
Oh man, that's. I mean, that's really sweet of you to say and everything. But I never had any hard feelings about that. I mean, I think we all had a lot going on in our lives at that time, and it was just like,
Well, it
sometimes.
just sucks because I feel like I'm in a way better place now. Way better place mentally, health wise. Got my shit together. I'm better at the bass than I've ever been. And now I wish I was like thrown back in that fucking situation because I'd gobble the hell out of it. So
Yeah.
regrets, man.
Oh, I think Wayne. What did Wayne tell me?
He was really mad at me for quitting, man. He was
Well,
so fucking mad.
I could see that. But I wasn't thinking about that. There was like a little quote that Wayne said to me one time. It was like he would probably be able to chime in with it, but it's something like nostalgia is the worst form of unrequited love or something like that. Like regrets about, like
Right.
you can never have the past back, and I think you can just be grateful for the way it all
I did get better hanging out with you
is.
guys, man. I had to learn some shit. Oopsie.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry about that. Everything's like linked to the computer and I don't know how to put the ignore thing on. How do I do that?
Oh, it's on your. So you like slide from the side. You know that little bar that comes up on like the right hand side with all the stuff, like
Let's see.
notifications and everything.
Oh, yeah, mine's on the bottom, I think.
Oh,
Or is it on the side?
I think it's on the right hand side usually. I'm pretty sure that's where it would be.
Let's
Like,
see.
there's a thing you can click on up by the little search, like magnifying glass. It's like it looks like a list of stuff.
Yeah.
If you click it and then slide up to the top, there's a thing that says "Do not disturb."
Ah, awesome.
Got it?
I learned something new. Yeah.
Cool.
Now I can't figure out how to get back to our screen. There we are. Awesome. Woohoo!
Hell
Do
yeah.
not disturb, bitches. We're busy having man talk.
Man. Um,
Dude, I can't tell you how happy I am to see you happy. So
oh,
happy, man. I mean, I don't want to dive into the past too much, but there was a point where you were having a tough time, and
yeah.
it's so cool to see you like with Shelby.
Oh, yeah. When it comes to love, I ended up lucking out. I have to say, getting the type of relationship that I've always kind of needed.
Or maybe when you needed the right friend came around when you were ready for it.
Right, just like what we were saying. Just like what we were saying. Yeah, I think that a lot of ways that friend group was there. I mean, you. I mean, again, not to get too nostalgic, but I will always be grateful for the time when you were there for me, when I was like at the very lowest low of breaking up with somebody and not knowing where my life was going to go. I remember you were like the one person I could call, and that's not the kind of thing that I'll never forget that.
Well, I just come out of that shit, man.
Yeah, man.
So
Uh,
for me, I did like 10 years in the church before I bailed out, dude. I'll be grateful you didn't go down the whole like temple marriage bullshit.
oh, right. You did that.
You dodged that bullet.
Oh, I sure did. Yeah, but damn, I forgot that that's what that was. Yeah, you did the temple thing.
Yeah, that was social suicide, bailing out. You know, the one thing that I was super mad about when I finally like left the church and like resigned for real is that you were telling me you went down to the church office building when you resigned and they had like a red phone they made you go pick up.
Yeah, I guess you can't do that anymore. They have
They didn't have it when I went.
You did it. Yeah, it was the right. That's when I found that out.
You're like, dude, I went right down to the church office building to resign. They told me to go pick up that red phone, and some dudes came down and took my letter, and that was it. And I was like, cool, I'm going. So that was like a year after you, right? When I went.
Yeah.
I go in there and I'm like, I want to resign. And they're like, we don't know how to do that. What you need to do is, there's like these two little old ladies. They were just super shocked, kind of like, what the hell is going on? They're telling me I got to go find my bishop. I'm like, I'm not going to go hunt down who my bishop is just to tell him I'm quitting.
Right. I'm like, I don't even know this guy.
Yeah, so they all act like they're oblivious to how this is done. And they're like, well, actually, that office is 2 blocks away. So I go down there, and they're like, oh, you got to tell your bishop. And I was like, no, I'm right here. I got my letter. Let's just do this. The guy's like, all right, let's get it done.
Yeah, no bat phone. Maybe they were just like, hey, the bat phone thing is too cool. People are going to want to quit now. Look at here. There's a sweet bat phone that you get to call on when you quit. We got to make it as like uncool as possible.
We're going to put the cutest, oldest ladies up front there at the desk.
Like
Make the guys have a second thought.
Applying for a library card or something, 2 pieces of mail.
You know what I was thinking about today, man? It made me laugh.
Hey, real quick.
Yes.
I am speaking of my lovely partner in crime, we got a Shelby in the house.
She's right there, the artist.
Yeah. She was just off picking up some tacos at our favorite breakfast taco location here in Portland called Pepperbox Cafe. And no, the podcast is not sponsored by Pepperbox Cafe.
You better not be cutting this podcast short so you can eat your fucking taco either.
What's that?
I said you better not be cutting this conversation short so you can eat your fucking taco.
No, but I mean, do you mind if I eat a taco while we talk?
I don't mind, but there might be people that mind if they hear you chewing in the microphone. But if you can
taco.
chew with your mouth closed, that'll probably be all right.
I'll just have this taco at the ready for when the right occasion arrives. But I also might do a little coffee refill.
Yeah, do that, man, for sure.
Cool. Does it work for the podcast to like take little breaks, or is it
I'd have to go back and edit it. Can we just talk while you get your coffee refilled?
Yeah, I think we can do that. I'm gonna just take the computer into the kitchen.
I'm too lazy to go back and edit this shit, man. It takes too long.
No, you're good. Here. Coffee break.
Technology.
Professional podcast coffee break. All right. Here we go. Sweet.
There it is, man. Is that a homemade mug?
It's someone made it. Yeah. It just says Sally on the bottom of it.
Sally made it.
I'm assuming that Sally made it.
It's got to be Sally.
Yeah. Okay, so where were we?
I was thinking about something funny today. I took my bus down to get new tires put on it. And while I was driving, I just was reminiscing in my own brain about some of the shit that we did a number of years ago. And I remember one time you called me up and you were so excited. You're like, dude, I found this fucking organ on the side of the road. And I put it on my skateboard and pushed it home. Can you help me lift it up the stairs? And I was like, yeah, man. So I come over and I'm like, that's a big fucking organ. Like, it was a big organ. I don't know how you rolled that home on a skateboard.
Yeah. That just Adam Moran, our mutual buddy, he showed. He lives up here now too. Actually, I haven't seen him for a while since I quit working at the Apple store.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so it was the weirdest thing because I had been saying to myself, like, okay, I'm ready I just want some kind of keyboard instrument in my life. Again, speaking of things like finding you at the right time, I was like ready, like You know, because I was like paycheck to paycheck. I mean, just like a lot of people are, like, I'm still, you know,
Sure.
I didn't have money, but I was like, I was gonna take all the money in my bank account and just buy like a keyboard because I wanted one that bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, just through happenstance, this like sweet vintage Wurlitzer organ was just like sitting on the street that day as I was walking home. And yeah, and then yeah, Adam came and we put it on a skateboard, and then that was that. I believe Joseph Hansen is in possession of that organ now.
Oh, it's still alive and well.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean we couldn't take it to Portland with us, but so we gave it to him, or maybe sold it to him. I can't remember. But, yeah,
That thing was cool when I saw it because my grandma had something very similar to that. And, you know, we didn't know how to play the fucking thing, but we were always pushing those buttons and pushing on the keys and making all these different noises. And that volume had like a little volume pedal that would really crank it up that you did with your foot.
yeah, right.
Yeah. And then all those like pre-programmed like drum machine beats.
Those
Like,
sound awesome. I really want to get like an old drum machine thing like that, like one of those like Univox drum machines.
I've seen those. I was looking at them on eBay. I want to get one, but God, they're asking a lot of money for those things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got a metronome on my phone and a little drum machine on my phone, but having something old and analog like that just seems more fun.
Again, yeah, it's just like it makes a better story, you know, and like you're gonna just know when you listen to it. And people, those kinds of stories spread too. Like if I don't know, if people start listening to the recording, it's gonna make a better. There's just a better sort of like mythos to it if
Mm-hmm.
it's made with some cool old thing like that.
For
Um,
sure.
but yeah, and actually, okay. So speaking of the Univox drum machine, I work at a music store now in Portland,
Cool.
and we have one there. But also, Peter Buck from REM kind of frequents the store.
No shit.
Yeah, and just like picks up the most expensive guitar and just kind of looks at it and like, oh, well, I guess I could get it if I wanted to with some of that Everybody Hurts money. Um, but but did you know that the drums?
Oh shit.
Did you know that the drums on Everybody Hurts were made with one of those Univox machines?
I did not know that.
Fun fact.
Now I'm gonna go back and listen to it.
Yeah,
I haven't listened to that song in a while, man.
dude, it's a good song. The music video is really good too. I think. Just all these people like in their cars, and it's all like
Crying? Are they all crying?
sad. Yeah, it's like everybody's like super like they're like in their own weird personal problems, and you're reading about them in like subtitles, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
then like Michael Stipe just suddenly has the heroic inspiration to be like, we should step outside of our cars and like walk. You know, it's like kind of cool.
Do you ever talk to him when he comes in?
Oh, Peter Buck. Yeah, he judged me for listening to Supertramp.
He judged you?
Okay,
Like, what
so
did he say to you?
I oftentimes am in the mood to just listen to some good old fashioned, you know, dad rock. And I was just rocking Breakfast in America. And who walks into the store but Peter Buck? And he's like, Supertramp, huh? When I worked at a record store, I used to have to sell this thing all day and I hated it. Yeah, well, I know you're like super hip with your whole Athens friends with the B-52s thing. But some people like, you know, some dad rock every now and then.
For sure, man. What's that other band you like that was dad rock?
Steely Dan.
Yeah, Steely Dan. I
It's
like Steely Dan too. It's nostalgic. Like my parents were listening to that shit.
yeah. It's
Like
a,
it was just in the background. So now if I hear it, I'm like, oh, I know this song. I like it.
it's a safe bet that my dad is listening to Steely Dan at this moment, and I love knowing that. It's one of those just things that you can just take comfort in. Like, Dad's listening to Steely Dan.
So, what's the music scene like up there, man? Like I didn't realize you were like in a band right now.
Yeah.
Max told me, and I was like, oh shit. So I looked it up and listened to a bunch of the stuff that you guys have posted. It's fucking good.
Hey, thanks, man.
Really, it's really good.
Just a bunch of like live videos. Again, with the like recording thing, I find myself, I'm gonna cross that threshold and like make recording in just time bullshit to show people, because recording always has stressed me out. But playing live,
It's stressful, but if you can play live and record it all at once and then just do like a rough, I mean, if you guys are super tight and solid, and then you just have to do like a rough mix, or take it to somebody and be like, look, we want you to mix it for us. But you can get the tracks yourself and just do it live. But I mean,
yeah,
it'll be a little bit of trial and error, but you got to do it, man. You have to put out some shit. You have to.
yeah, I will. I
You
promise.
got to record that shit, cut that umbilical cord, and just let it be.
I promise. I promise I'll do it. This conversation is
Boy Scouts honor.
Boy Scouts fucking honor.
You got to do this, remember?
Okay. Oh yeah. Boom.
Bam.
Yes. I'll do it.
Okay. No, so the project's Comrade Fran.
Comrade Fran, yeah, is like we had our first gig coming up, and we were at a Halloween party, and talked to this guy who plays in bands around here, and he was like, "Yeah, I saw on some like message board that Fran Drescher is a socialist, and I thought that a really cool band name would be like Comrade Drescher." And I was like, Comrade Fran. Then it's kind of like open to interpretation, and it's like, I don't know, a little bit like whimsical, but also like a little political. And like, I guess that's kind of what I want it to be, is like songs about the end of the world that you can like dance to.
Hell yeah.
So,
What's that song you guys just put up? It's the new mantra. Is that what it's called?
yeah, that's like the most recent song that I have started writing. And
It's really good.
thanks.
No, it's great, man.
Thanks. Yeah.
I couldn't quite tell. Were you saying something about the devil? I want to dance like the devil is born.
Oh, I want to, no, it's like
What does it say?
dark though. It's, I want to dance like I've never been born.
Oh, like I've never been born. Gotcha. I thought it said devil. I was
Yeah.
like, that'd be a weird day when the devil was born.
No. It's like
He just pops out and starts dancing like a newborn elf and shit. Just on a rampage to destroy the world. No, I'm just kidding.
dude. Yeah, that would have been quite the day. But yeah, it's kind of like my one concept that I have about it is, yeah, I want it to be like so like fun that people are like just having, they're just like dancing, and then like if they listen to the words, realize like, wait a minute, like there's kind of a dark side to this too. But
It's
like,
like that old song. Oh, where could my baby be? It's like this happy song, but it's like talking about car crash and her like this lover died in the car crash. Do you remember that song? Like
oh yeah,
Eddie Vedder covered it, but the original version's like this super poppy song, and the lyrics are so sad and dark.
yeah, I like that. I like but I like music as entertainment too. So I probably talked to you about like this random conversation I had with the dude from Akron family when they were coming through Salt Lake City. I just like caught him outside and like tried to talk to him and glean from his like wisdom, because he just seemed like this very like enlightened being. And he said this thing that stuck with me about how like there's this spectrum of art and entertainment, and that they both kind of solve the same problem. Like we're confronted with our mortality, and we know that we're going to die, we've got this darkness, and we can either like through entertainment, like distract ourselves from it, or through art, like recontextualize it into something beautiful, and I think that it's like music is totally both, and I want to sort of accept the fact that it's both, and like not.
So it possesses both the yin and the yang, is what you're saying.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, I guess so. I never thought about it as like a yin yang thing.
So you got entertainment, mortality, and if you can
Right.
bring them together and they cross sometimes, right? That's where you get the magic.
Yeah,
It's right there in the balancing act between the two.
totally.
And sometimes when you fall off a little bit one way or the other way, it gets real interesting.
Yeah,
Yes, no? Yes, no?
it's like a balancing act, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, some music's too entertaining, and it doesn't really have deep thoughts.
Yeah.
The lyrics are very on the nose, and it's like, a lot of music nowadays. Chris and I always talk about like mumble rap and all the shit. They just repeat the same stuff all over and over again. It's like we went from Bob Dylan to like nonsense, like nonsensical music. It's all just entertainment, right? But if you look at like Neil Young, for example, it's entertainment, but it's also fucking, like you said, art, man. There's some shit
Yeah,
going on in there and some stuff going on in the lyrics that make you think.
totally. There's some dark, old man, all the damage done, all that. Yeah, he's going there, but
Mm-hmm.
but it's still got this like beautiful melody, and yeah, I would call Neil Young stuff pretty artistic and pretty like
Mm-hmm.
raw. And Neil Young is such a fixture in terms of like where you. I remember seeing this interview with Tom York from Radiohead where he says that like he listens to Neil Young whenever he just wants to like get in touch with like the raw simplicity of like musical expression where it doesn't have to be some ornate out there thing to like get to the like Neil Young's music I think really gets to like the heart of the matter in a way that like not a lot of music does.
I agree with that.
Maybe I'm just thinking a lot about Neil Young because I just got this sweet Neil Young t-shirt yesterday at a thrift store.
Is it amazing?
It's pretty cool.
You
I think it's
got it at a thrift store.
yeah, oh yeah. There's a lot of thrift stores in Portland.
Are they like highway robbery thrift stores? Or are they actually thrifty?
So there's a little bit of both. I don't like the expensive ones. It like offends me.
It is offensive. You know what? I think about that all the time with the DI, man. Back when I was younger, you'd go to the DI and they had, because the whole thing was the DI was a place where you could donate your stuff, they resell it, repurpose it, but it was the people they hired were people that had like, some type of disability or
Yeah,
were on hard times, right? And so that was half the fun of going to the DIs because it'd be like some dude who was kind of like a little bit mentally challenged. I don't know what the right terms are now, but he's the one deciding the prices. So
yeah,
sometimes you'd pick up something that wasn't worth a damn and it was like had a $25 sticker on it and you're laughing your ass off. It's hilarious. And then something that should have been really expensive was like, a quarter. And now they got this fucking, they have, the people that are there working, doing all like the simple stuff and they have like the smartest motherfucker putting prices on everything now. They know what the designer jeans are. They know what all the stuff to charge more money. So I don't go to the DI anymore, man.
sucks.
They
Yeah,
suck.
uh,
Used to be fucking hilarious.
yeah, man. Yeah, I did a little thrift. Well, yeah, I try to hit up the thrift stores as much as possible. We got the Goodwill out here rather than the DI, but yeah, you can get some pretty sweet deals. Like I was actually, this conversation right now is brought to you by some like Wi-Fi extenders that I got at the DI for like, or not the DI, the Goodwill, I should say.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of thrift stores in Portland. Some of them are actually still thrift stores. Um, there's a lot of music in Portland. I mean, it seems like everyone in Portland is in a band because it's kind of true. It's like everyone's in band,
Mm-hmm.
which can be, that has, of course, its pros and its cons. I mean, it's kind of like impossible to really get a snapshot of everything that's going on. Just
Mm-hmm.
so much like you couldn't possibly. Um, but it also makes it just kind of fun where there's like a lot of people to collaborate with. Where like once you kind of start dipping your toe in, you start meeting more and more people who are into the type of thing that you're into, or they're at more or less the stage of the game that you're at. And so we've been kind of building some alliances with like little baby bands that are like just getting started and like booking lots of shows at like the smaller venues in Portland and like having fun promoting them and making friends along the way. And it's lots
Sounds fun.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. Um,
That's kind of what I don't know. It's a goal of mine. I mean, that's one of the big goals of mine for this podcast is to start getting. We've been just doing. We're just being ourselves. We're doing whatever the fuck we want, really. But one of the things I want to tackle is I want to start getting a lot of the local talent on here. And if you know anybody and people who want to be on the podcast, I'm all for that too. But like, I really want to kind of build kind of a platform for musicians and artists and just people in general, so they can come on the podcast and like they'll have access to everybody that follows the podcast. And then when they tell their friends about being on the podcast, we win too, because more people are listening to the podcast. But that's kind of like my vision of it. And that's one of the things that I think Salt Lake kind of lacks in a way is they don't have like a real music hub. Like there's a few places that seem to really give a shit about music, but there's not like a music scene so much
Well,
that I can tell.
I always stick up for Salt Lake whenever the topic comes up, because a lot of people maybe on the West Coast who haven't been just have this perception that you get out there and there's going to be like, covered wagons.
Like I'm saying, there's some cool spots.
Right.
Like Kilby Court's
Yeah.
cool. I've seen some fucking awesome bands there. I've seen some cool shit at the Urban.
Diabolical Records, man.
But that is a cool place. Like I wish there was like a community of people with that same mentality.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. And I think the talent's there. I think the desire is there. I think everything's there for it.
yeah, there
And
just needs to be more of it. It's true.
and I'm hoping like at some point through this that we can start interviewing all these different local artists here in Salt Lake and start, creating something that will help that along a bit. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's some magic in that. I mean, I think a lot of it comes down to, well, and it's a topic that at least in Portland, I think it's almost played out. But just when you think about the a lot of the urban development that's happening is sort of, it's like not leaving a space for that sort of thing to happen as much. It's kind of like squishing it out of,
Oh, really?
I mean, to an extent, yeah. I mean, just because, like we were saying, it just becomes less and less affordable to live in a city like Portland, and then that means that less and less of like the starving artist types can be here, and that means that less and less of that community building can happen. And so there's
The rich people are coming out and sweeping out the riffraff. Gotta get rid of the riffraff, man.
dude. I mean, you can't throw a rock in this town without hitting like a new condo that's coming up, and so there's kind of this lingering fear in the air of all the people who are here to enjoy the creative side of Portland that is like what it's known for, which is like why we came here, of course. And, because I have nostalgic memories of like my grandma leading drum circles.
Yeah. After church or before church?
She didn't really go to church. She really claimed it. She still, to this day, claims Mormonism, but she wasn't, she was pretty outside the box that
She's
way.
like, I'm not going to hang out inside the chapel, man. Just not doing it.
But yeah, I just had so many fond memories of every time we would come up here to visit my grandma, like being so, like I remember going into a guitar shop when I was a teenager here and playing. Did you ever listen to the band Burning Airlines? Did you ever
No, never heard of them.
They're pretty cool. They were like a Washington DC band from like the late 90s, and I liked them a lot as a teenager, and I played one of their like riffs on guitar, and I just figured, oh, nobody listens to my weird music. And like immediately one of the guys in the guitar shop came. I was like, oh, that's from the new Burning Airlines, isn't it? And I was just like, what is this magical place? Like all like the record stores and stuff. It was just like, yeah, there's a lot of music appreciation in Portland still. But there is also, this.
Well, I think that's one of the other things that's a tough part in Salt Lake, man, is that you've got a lot of Mormon people and a lot of people with kids.
Yeah.
Which is great. That's fine. But like going out to clubs and listening to bands and music and stuff, you might want to do that, but it's not like a priority, if that makes sense.
Totally. I get that. And
so do you guys tend to have like more people without kids and maybe younger people that are all kind of wanting to go out? Because it seems like people are always getting out and doing shit. Like anytime I've toured the Northwest, people are just out at places.
Yeah.
When I go to San Diego, people are just hanging out, man. They're always going to shows. Like that's what people like to do. And in Salt Lake, it's like pulling teeth sometimes getting people to come out to shows because they have families and things. It's like, oh, I can't get a sitter. I'd love to go, but
totally. Yeah. It's, I mean, I think there are challenges here just like anywhere else. And there definitely are a lot of people who, I feel like Portland is the type of place where if you're sort of a progressive or party animal sort of a person, this is where you come to kind of more or less settle down, but keep your, personality intact. Because it is a little bit more, I'd say, subdued than, like New York or LA. I mean, it doesn't have like some crazy nightlife.
Right.
There are little pockets that stay awake, but it. But yeah, I think that the cool thing again with everyone, like there really are just so many people here who play music. It's that you get like kind of a hodgepodge of different genres. There seems to be a pretty big scene kind of around like the like neo Americana singer songwriter type thing.
Mm-hmm.
There is still, you could say, a punk scene for sure, although not as much as there once was. There's a lot of great jazz in the city. There's a few new jazz clubs that have popped up, and some cool folks have pressed against. I'm always like a little intimidated by jazz, but I've tried to wrap my head around it in recent months.
Do you read? Can you read jazz charts?
Well, I guess I know the chords. Like if you know what I mean? Like if I know how to follow the chord changes, kind of. I can't really solo over like too complex of chord changes. But I've learned a few more things about jazz than I once knew.
Mm-hmm.
And just like interesting chord voicings they're so beautiful, you know? That's why I want to become a better like keyboard player, because you can do that kind of stuff more than on the guitar. But that's been kind of a fascination of mine lately, is just like pretty chords.
Hell yeah, man. You do a lot of fun stuff with them for sure.
Hmm.
Well, you're pretty good at the keys, man. I remember one time we were doing some shit with the watches and you just like stepped over on the keyboard and played something and I was like, what the fuck? I didn't even know you played the keyboard.
I remember that little riff that we did, yeah.
I was like, get the fuck out of here, man. And then like I remember one time you just hopped on the drum kit and just started playing some shit and I was like, was this guy a wizard? What's going on here?
You're too kind.
You don't gotta be shy, man.
uh, yeah.
Are you still doing the Legrowlski thing?
I still am involved there, and I'm actually kind of proud of that little place these days.
What's it called? Legrowlski?
It's called the Big Legrowlski. It's just a little hangout, like brew pub, or like not a pub, but like a tap room. They have a lot of little like tap rooms in Portland with all the kind of local beer, but this one has like a room attached to it. It's just big enough for like smaller shows. And so right around a year ago, when I had quit my job at the Apple store, I kind of walked in there, right place, right time, where he was just wanting to convert it into like a venue.
Mm-hmm.
And he just bought like one guitar. He had like a Telecaster and like a little Blues Junior, and I just like goofed around on it. And he's like, "Oh, he's this Australian guy. He's like, you're really good, mate. Give you a regular." You know? So I started playing covers there, and then he kind of started beefing up the gear arsenal and booking local bands to play there. And just over the months since, it's just grown. So now it's something of like a venue. Like I'll overhear people in bands being like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go play at the Big Legrowlski," and I'm just like, "Oh, small baby."
That's
So
awesome, man.
yeah, it's cool. It's cool to have been part of that. And I still host a jam session there every Monday night. So we have like an open, because when I came here, there wasn't really a place with an open jam. Like, did you ever go to the open jams that they had at, oh damn, what was that place in Salt Lake? The Woodshed.
No, never at the Woodshed.
Closed down, unfortunately. But every Wednesday, they used to have an open jam session in Salt Lake, and I would go there like religiously, and I loved it. It was like cathartic, and I wanted to find something like that when we moved here, and there really wasn't. And so we kind of made one. Like this bar owner bought a whole bunch of instruments and just kind of had me come and like supervise and play. And so every Monday night we have just like an open forum where people can come just like play guitar, and that's how I've actually met the two guys that I'm playing with right now in this band. And even we've got a percussionist we play with sometimes. It's basically every musician that I've met in town has been as a result of this event that we've done, which it's just like every week people come hang out at the bar and play music and just kind of see what happens.
That's cool. That's way cool. Do you ever record any of that stuff?
We should. Like, I mean, every now and
then. Like you should videotape that stuff, because you just never know. Like one day that might be like a really valuable thing to have. Like not monetarily, but
Right,
just
right.
because
No,
like you think about all the bands, you know, like all the stuff that we loved, you know, that we watch now, documentaries of old, like where do they get all the footage
yeah,
of like all those people, right? Like you just don't know of all those people that are coming to jam sessions, you don't know which one of those people are going to be like
yeah, yeah.
blast off, you know, and then you got all this cool footage of it.
Yeah, that's a good point. We really should. The owner's been talking about that for a while. We should start get some videotape of that. And like to our earlier conversation, like that band that I worshipped as a teenager, like someone at that show in like 2001 had some form of a portable camera, and the videos are on YouTube. And
Right.
I am like so grateful that they are, because like that's that one link to this like treasured moment in the past. I'm like, I'm so glad someone took a video of that show, you know.
Exactly.
But yeah, I guess I need to be better about that sort of thing, documenting stuff.
It's tough though. You're the type of guy that's all in, man. Like in the moment, which is good. Like that's a good thing, right? To live in the now. Like that's what we should all be doing.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe
But
I just need to collaborate with people who are more documentarians
yeah,
or
just
something.
hire somebody, man. Pay him, give him a few free beers. Hey, if you come up every night and just fucking record, I'll give you some beer.
Yeah,
You should tell the owner that. Like, just let's get somebody that actually knows what they're doing, gives a shit. We'll give them a free meal and some beer, and they'll record every night that we
yeah.
do
It's
the open jam.
a really good idea. We should get
If I
on.
had the money, I'd have somebody do all the other shit with this podcast, so I didn't have to do it. I like this part. This part's fun to me. I
Uh-huh.
love this. The other shit, getting it all uploaded, converted, all that stuff, I fucking hate it.
Oh, I bet.
It just sucks up. It's that's the time consuming part. This part's fun.
Right.
I love talking to people. I love getting to know things about their lives, like what they're up to, what they're doing, and just getting in these conversations. But the fucking I don't edit these things, but there's this whole process of things you have to do to get it uploaded to like iTunes and to get the video so you can actually upload it to YouTube because you have to convert it. It's a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that stuff though, it's part of it. I feel like I need to start kind of thinking about it more that way. Like it's yeah, when you're like in the moment and it's all fun and games and you're making these cool sounds, like that is why you're excited about it. But I think I need to start seeing some of those more mundane tasks of like loading gear, finding the little adapter to plug into the thing, you know, turning the knobs so it doesn't sound. I've got to start like that as part of it and making it fun, because that's the only way I can do anything is to like make it into like a game. I just like that's the only, you know, I I think it's the most effective form of motivation, at least for me. So
Sure.
yeah,
I get that. And a lot of that is perspective too. You got to kind of see the whole thing, I guess. I don't know.
yeah,
But speaking of gear, I noticed you got some fancy new stuff, man.
yeah. Working at a guitar shop will do that to you.
So you got that guitar. It kind of looked like a Fender headstock to me, but I don't recognize that body at all.
Oh, do you want to see what we got over here? Yeah. So this is actually a Squire, man, and I just picked it up because I liked it and I liked playing it, and I thought it'd be fun to have a guitar that I could kind of mess around with, because I sometimes wonder about like different tunings and stuff. So I actually have this tuned in F standard, which is fun. It just has like a little bit of and it has like light. I put lighter strings on it.
Cool.
And then there's this, which is actually property of the Big Legrowlski. This is one of the house guitars. It's an American Jazz Master. It's kind
That's
of
really pretty, man.
special. Yeah. And then yeah,
I
got
don't think that's the one you had in the video, though.
some of these cabs right there.
Yeah, those are nice. I noticed those in the video. Show those again.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, I know the guitar you're talking about.
Orange cabs, man. Those are beautiful.
They're fun. The guitar you're talking about, I actually sold back to the store. It wasn't really working out the way I wanted it to, but
Gotcha.
that was a Reverend Jetstream 390.
a reverend.
Yeah, it's a really cool guitar, but for the types of sounds I've been wanting, it just wasn't the right fit because it has these the pickups on it are like P90s, but they're actually higher output than P90s.
Did they pick up a lot of extra noise and shit too?
They
Like that
can
60 cycle hum and stuff?
well they're wired like Strat pickups, so if you in the middle position, you get hum canceling and that kind of like glassy tone that I really like a lot. But you can get that with the Strat too, of course. But the output on the pickups was just way too much. Where like I would plug it into, so I have a deluxe reverb, and I got rid of that AC30 that I always played with the band,
Mm-hmm.
and got a deluxe reverb, which I really like. It's got like a lot more headroom than a Vox, so it's like a cleaner sound, and
Okay.
the reverb on it is just like surfy and like retro sounding and amazing. But as soon as I plugged the Jetstream into it with the higher output pickups, it was like full overdrive like all the time. Like, and that's just I like overdriven guitar sounds like kind of sometimes, but I like more like being able to play like a jazzy chord and have it not sound muddy, like that kind of cleaner tone stuff.
That makes sense. So it's harder to what's the word I'm looking for? Like the timbre. It's
Yeah.
harder to have timbre on if it's like full blast all the time, right?
Right. I like there to be, especially with a tube amp, some amount of dynamic where if I play harder, it has a little bit of bite, but if I play light, then it's like perfectly clean. That's kind of a sweet spot.
Do you still have that really pretty hollow body thing that you had going on there?
No, I had to part ways with that. It is pretty.
That was a really cool looking guitar, man.
Yeah, I got rid of that because it would like feedback anytime I plugged it in. It's great if you're like actually playing jazz at jazz volumes, and about I tend to turn up the volume. It didn't really, it just didn't really work. It would
Gotcha.
like feedback every time I turned it on.
So do you like working at a music store?
Yeah, it's like
Sometimes I think it would be nightmarish, but that's like Guitar Center is the one I think would be nightmarish.
like this is a locally owned music store that primarily deals in used gear.
Okay.
So those two factors make me feel a lot better about it, and it has a much more like mellow kind of a vibe. Like it's
Is it kind of like guitars are?
yeah, you could put it. I'd say it's a little even less formal than guitars are. It's like a very like chill music store. But yeah, it's a lot of fun there. It's like by far the funnest job I've ever had. Everybody there just is a musician and is like working in some kind of local band.
Is it hard sometimes, like when good gear comes through? Like, oh God, I want to drop my whole paycheck on that.
Yeah, that definitely does happen. But I don't know. I think I've gone through a pretty weird phase of like switching out my gear constantly because of it. But I think I've gotten to a point now where I've kind of learned my lesson, and I know when something really special is going to come by that I'll actually use. But I'm not going to get too distracted by shiny things like pedals. You could go down such a rabbit hole with pedals, but I feel like at the end of the day, it's like they're just tools, And if you find a tool that speaks to you and start creating with it, that's where it's at. But
right. Cool,
but,
man. What are you jamming on right now? Like, what's your jam that you're listening to?
oh, dude, I've kind of been like more drawn to like '80s aesthetics than I once was. I've been recently getting into like Susie and the Banshees a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think. Oh, you know what? In terms of new stuff, have you heard the new album from La Luz?
La Luz?
Yeah.
Oh, is that? I wonder if I've been pronounced that wrong.
Or like one might pronounce it as La Luz.
Yeah, or Lux.
It's like Laluz, like the light in Spanish. La Luz.
Yeah, I want to say that that's the one band that my buddy Steve has sent me stuff about multiple times, and I've listened to them a bit here and there.
Yeah, they're really cool. They're from LA.
I have to see if I can see the album cover, and then I'll know for sure. They're from where?
They're from LA. All female cast.
Yes, I have. Weirdo Shrine. That's the one I've listened to. He has
Oh,
that
cool.
one at his house.
Yeah, the new one that just came out. I can't think of the title right now. Something.
Floating features. That's what it says.
It's
Yeah, I remember really digging on that.
yeah,
Some
it's great. It like starts out with this cool little like proggy riff that like goes on for a really long. It's like a big long sort of chord progression that's like a little bit off kilter. It's like instrumental, and then the rest of it's just like really good like surf pop, like some pretty clever hooks in there. Yeah,
oh,
I've been actually like more drawn to pop sensibility and like hooks and simpler things. Shelby and I are kind of talking about starting up a little project of like kind of country rock. Um,
oh, dude. Remember when John Lennon did that with Yoko Ono?
yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Wait, you mean the Plastic Ono band?
Kiss, 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 kiss me now. One kiss will do. No, I'm just kidding.
Plastic Ono band. Well, okay, I haven't really listened to like the Yoko Ono side of Plastic Ono band, but I actually have recently been listening to the John Lennon Plastic Ono band album, and it's
Nice.
so good.
Yeah, he was really good, man.
I love the way that like the doubled vocals sound, where you can like hear like the flaws in the singing on like you can definitely tell that the two vocal tracks are like different from each other, but they like blend together in this really cool way. Like
Hmm.
it's just that speaking of raw, that album is pretty
Well, I
special.
think we naturally want to hear the little nuances. Like, there's always background noise all the time, whether you're aware of it or not.
Hmm.
But when it's not there, it's kind of, I don't know, for me, it's a bit jarring. Like, I have a really tough time listening. Like, Kennedy's way into singing, my daughter. So
Hmm.
she listens to a lot of pop artists with
Yeah.
vocals, but there's so much compression on the vocals, and they've made it so perfect that it's missing all the like natural nuances that you like to hear. And
Totally.
it's almost like nails on a chalkboard for me.
Yeah, I get that. It's odd.
I mean, it works in some situations, man, but when it's like a mostly vocal song and it's just so compressed and it almost sounds more like a computer singing than like a real person, it really kind of bothers me.
Yeah, it does. It kind of kills a certain part of the magic. Uh,
Yeah. Well, what does Shelby play? I didn't know. Does she play an instrument?
she's been picking up a few chords on the guitar, but she has like a pretty natural uh, knack for like vocal hooks. Like she'll just kind of like wake up in the morning with some like vocal melody in her head, and she'll just sing it to me, and then I'll be like, "Oh, that implies, this chord progression or whatever." And then we've started writing a few songs together that way, where I've been just like pretty pretty stoked on the results. It's just like this nice kind of throughout
That's
this
cool, man.
throughout this really catchy little country rock song that we recorded. Well, it ended up sounding kind of almost like a cross between like country rock and like surf rock because I played my guitar through the Lux Reverb. But it's one of the yeah we made a little recording of it. I'll have to send it your way.
Hell yeah. I want to see it. I want to hear it. I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
look what I just got in the mail today.
Ooh, mama. Wait, the bass or the amp?
The amp.
Cool.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
I don't know if the screen's picking it up. There it
Oh,
is.
yeah.
So yeah, man, that's 1960s
Oh, really?
Ampeg SB12. So it's like the B15, which is like the holy grail of bass tone, like all the old Motown stuff, James Jamerson, all that was recorded through a B15. This is like the little brother to that. It's a 12-inch instead of a 15,
Cool.
but it still has all that fucking tone for days, man. I mean, every bass you put through it, it'll sound different. I don't know. I'm really, really excited about it, man.
That's so cool. Do you play flat wounds on your bass ever?
Always.
Nice. Yeah.
I don't like round wounds at all, man. I like started playing with flats a number of years ago. I think it was like when I got that hollow body bass with the watches. Remember the Bulgarian one?
Hmm.
I put flats on that and then I've never turned back.
They're so silky.
I love them. They're so comfortable to play. They feel good, but like I love the tone you get out of them.
Yeah, me too. I have flats on. You remember that Dan Electro that I have? I still have it.
Yep.
Yeah. I put flats on that recently, and it was made for it. It was like a match made in heaven. I mean, I'm never gonna put.
Flats on guitar strings?
Yeah, yeah. You can get flat wound guitar strings.
I did not know that.
They are. I guess back in the day they were all flat wound. That's what made me think about it. Is like all those Motown guitar tracks. Like those are flat wounds.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Do you prefer passive instruments too?
Oh well, you don't find too much active pickups on guitars really. So
Just the heavy metal shit, huh?
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've never really tried that, um, but so I don't know. But yeah, I think I see on guitar benefits for both like flats and round rounds because
Mm-hmm.
you can't really bend with flats the same way, and they don't. And sometimes having that like trebly kind of that you don't get on flat wounds is kind of nice to have that like metallic
Makes it a little more mellowed out a bit.
flats.
Would you
Yeah,
say? Yeah.
it's super mellowed out and super like uniform in tone between strings. So if
Mm-hmm.
you play like those big jazzy chords, they ring out. It almost sounds a little more like a in terms of the timbre of it, more like a classical instrument, like a little bit like a cello would sound if it were a guitar, because those are flat wound strings too.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, will you play some stuff for us?
Oh, sure.
Maybe we can wrap this podcast up with you jamming something for us.
Yeah. I got my little buddy here.
But before that, like, where can people go to listen to things? Like, you've got your at Comrade Fran.
Yeah, that's it. I'd say just follow the band on Instagram for the moment, and then we'll be linking to shows and things that we record in the near future. Hey there, Justin. So since the audio didn't really work on our original episode, I put together this cute little jazzy Grateful Dead guitar loop thing for you based on a song that I'm writing. Love you, buddy. Thinking about you. See ya.
If you enjoyed this episode of The Swinging Lights, then please take a moment and head on over to iTunes and just give us 5 stars, goddammit. That's how iTunes works. It works off of algorithms, and if you want to help us out, that's the best way to do so. You can follow The Swinging Lights at our website, theswinginglights.com, also on Instagram and Facebook, and that's just The Swinging Lights. Once again, thanks for listening.